I know that for me to be able to like get out of bed, it's the fear of losing it all instead of the fear of making it all that drives me, right? The fear is what got me up when I was in my early teenage years, insecure because I was a bit chubby, thinking I have to lose this weight, otherwise the kids are gonna call me a fat, hopefully Instagram isn't blowing me up like fat nigger again or some shit like that. Which is what I got called at 12, right? So like, for me, that like, there's different periods of my life that make me drive, and that's fear. Reward doesn't drive me. So generalized fear towards certain things is what shows up, but I wouldn't say I'm also a guy with many insecurities, to be honest, ironically. So like, when it comes to what fear still shows up after perceived success, really it's just making sure that I guess I'm a good leader for the team. I'm quite young, I'm one of the younger people in my own company, so it's just making sure that, I am the person that I think I am, so the team can have, someone to be able to model so we can continue to grow, because, you can only grow as fast as the weakest link, and I never want to be the weakest link in my own company. So yeah, that's my answer. Congrats, thank you, brother, I appreciate it. What lie did you believe about success early on? What lie did I believe about success early on? Lie, what lie? Well, I grew up in a household that, was very non-risk tolerant. They were very risk averse, right? So, my family largely believed in, like follow orders, get a degree, get the jab, you know what I'm saying? And look, there's a bit of satire there, but it's just kind of follow rules. And I've not necessarily been a defiant individual, maybe I have actually, but I have been a person that's been wanting to question things since I was very young. Questioning things since I was very young, right? And I would often get in arguments and fights in high school because of this questioning or this perhaps rebellious kind of vibe, right? So one thing I think I learned and I had to unlearn was that rich people are bad. They're not bad. Right? They're hoarding resources and they should spend all the resources on other people. There shouldn't be billionaires out there. There shouldn't be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. When in reality, these people that have amassed wealth a lot of the time, especially if it's not inherited, even if it's inherited, ironically, they tend to give the workplace, they tend to give a lot of people jobs and opportunities. They tend to stimulate the economy and keep GDP rising and have people, fulfilling their lives or feeling fulfilled by doing something and adding value to society. So one thing I had to unlearn very quickly was that rich people aren't bad, or people that make absurd amounts of money are not bad people. And that was something that was present, I guess, in my reality when I was first getting started in entrepreneurship at around 18 years old. And it's something that a lot of us, it's in the back of our heads. You really got to be able to, literally someone else just said right now they're going to have a contract signed, right? So again, just proof in the pudding, we really do this, right? But yeah, it's the ability to understand that it's a vibration, it's a reality that is unfamiliar. So we tend to demonize what's unfamiliar, right? That's why to a large extent racism exists. Right? Like this person looks very different from me. So my tribal human instincts are, well, if they're different from me, they must be unsafe. I must attack them. They might be a threat to me. But if it's familiar, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I understand the intricacies of how this works. It's much like, rich people. Like at this point, I'm legitimately, last year I was legitimately spending a lot of, in 2025 partying with, which is even crazy to say, like multi-nine-figure guys and billionaires. And again, there wasn't an intimidation of such, and of course I respect what they've done. It was more like they see themselves, perhaps even if it's a small amount, in me, because they're in their 50s, 60s or whatever, and there's kind of like an early vibrational signal perhaps that I'm sending to them that allows me to access their reality for that night, right? So yeah, that's one lie that I had to stop believing in. Do you feel more free or more trapped by success? Again, I think it's perceived success is the right terminology because again, I put a lot of money back into my company. But to answer that question, I think it's both. I feel free in the sense like technically, and this is even cool to say, technically I'm at a stage where if I was to leave for a week, my company would still grow. Not just flatline, it would still grow, right? Which is cool. But I also know that in order for me to maintain a certain level of profitability and be able to attract a certain type of talent and close certain levels of deals, not just like 6, 7 and low 8-figure clients, but 9-figure clients or companies that are listed on exchanges or companies that have groups, I'm probably still going to need to be involved in the deal. So does that make me feel trapped? Perhaps. But for me, it really excites me to keep ascending my character and my abilities rather than feeling trapped. Because you can feel trapped in either way. You can be trapped by poverty, you can be trapped by wealth, you can be trapped by freedom, you can be trapped by perceived options, but you can also be trapped by having few options. You know, that's why even if you look at the dating market, a big reason why Gen Z, 33 or 32% of males haven't had sex in the last 12 months or are virgins, and you know, many women are at the highest level of depression in multiple years, in multiple decades. A lot of that is because of perceived choice. I can get a better man, I can get a better girlfriend, and excess choice also can lead to feeling trapped because humans weren't designed to have excess choice, right? But anyway, that's a different conversation. I feel both more free and more trapped. Which failure shaped you more than any win? A failure that shaped you more than any win. There's been so many, man. Like, there's so many failures. Again, I use the example of both at 21 and 22, I quit jobs twice in order to re-pursue running the agency. I failed both times. One of the times, if not the second time, no, the first time rather, I was nearly hospitalized, right? Again, I had a 39-degree fever. And for those of you that are science and health nerds, once you kind of get into the early 40s, like basically you're dead, like for real. And I did that self-induced, no drugs, no alcohol, just pure sleep deprivation and pushed myself to the max, right? But I had to learn from that. So that was a failure that, you know, I had to ask my parents for rent money for that month. Hey, mom and dad, can you please help? And they were really, you know, it was a bit embarrassing, you know? So many things, guys. Like I said, I think I've genuinely had more failures than most people by this age. That is why I'm able to grow certain things at a level and speed faster than perhaps some others, because of the level of patterns that I've seen and what leads to a failure. So that's one failure, and yes, that led to a win because, you know, when I ended up nearly getting hospitalized, I ended up working for a tech company where I had to master cold calling. And that was a slight fear of mine at the time, despite the success I had pre-COVID, right? Because I was more good at face-to-face, like walking up to a restaurant, pitching as the owner, yada, yada, yada. But I wasn't as good of a cold caller. But now, you know, 5 years since that job, damn, nearly 5 years, I'm getting old. 5 years since that certain corporate company I was working for, 4.5, 5 years. Now, you know, I've got a head of sales that I was able to initially, before he became head of sales, model me for cold calling and sales. And now under him, there's an appointment setting team leader. You know, and then appointment setting team leader, we have regional salespeople under it. So we have a salesperson that handles Perth for our certain divisions, and I'm on handles Victoria. So like there's a whole structure of about 12 to 15 salespeople, which is a big blessing from God, right? But that was all because I was forced through that loss to turn it into a win by mastering, well, I wouldn't say I'm a master, but by developing, you know, skills within the art of cold calling and closing. So there's multiple L's that turn into a win, and in order to get W's, you've got to have 2 L's, right? How do you separate self-worth from business results? Super good question, and I don't think I really learned this. And let me rephrase that. I think a lot of, well, actually, there's some people might disagree with this. I think you have to really figure out what drives you, right? So for example, there's some humans, and I learned this when I was learning from Ty Lopez's seminar a couple of years ago in 2023. Some people, humans are driven by different things. Some people are driven by romance. Like they just want to, as brash as it is, have a lot of sex with a lot of people. Some people are driven by kids. Some people are driven by legitimately the acquisition of like money and seeing the dollar amount rise in their bank account. That's how they're wired. A lot of this is genetic. Some people are driven by status. A lot of actors, and I know this because I've Kosar Central, the production company. A lot of actors they exhibit a certain type of performative narcissism, right? And the reason why it's so that level of that type of narcissism is popular in actors and in movies and stuff like that is because they love status. There's a certain level of status and exhibitionism that they get from it, right? So for me, I really am, there's another category. Tony Robbins talks about the 7 drivers of human nature. But for me, I'm really driven by what we call mastery. So for example, the agency for me is an outlet of mastery, right? Like I enjoy becoming more skilled. at selling. I enjoy becoming more skilled at marketing, and I love this is how I know I'm doing my mastery. When I finish Quasar Central shoots, and I usually don't eat those days, and they're usually 12 hours of me liaising with 100 people to get 10 episodes of content done in one day, right? I usually don't eat those days, I just have water. The satisfaction I feel after the season is recorded, bro, like I feel so good, so elated, so positive. And I feel so good because it's like, wow, like I pulled off something in my mind and I materialized it with the blessings of God into the world, and that was able to, invoke joy and happiness amongst the masses. I made the city shake just for that second. That feeling I gets me on a bigger high than all the other things that I mentioned other people are driven by. Status, sex, whatever, seeing the dollar amount go up in my bank account. Like that feeling of mastery, accomplishment, that gives me a high. And some might say, well, I'm sure there's some sort of coping mechanism. Yeah, look, I've done the NLP training, the behavioral, perhaps, and of course, every quote-unquote high performer has some sort of origin story. But when it comes to separating self-worth and business, you got to really understand what you're driven by. So for me, I know that likely in my 30s, will I still be a bit of a corporate, young corporate tyrant perhaps, but I know that what will give me more joy is probably the more creative pursuits, right? But again, I'll let time dispel that when it comes. Who did you outgrow on the path? That is a good question. First of all, man, you can't become a butterfly, if you're still a caterpillar, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta be willing to shed dead skin, metaphorically and literally. You gotta be able to grow out of yourself. I'll give a few examples personally and then externally or environmentally. The first thing you can always do to change your vibration is to leave the area in which you grew up in. And the reason why that's important, I've made videos on this in the past, is because if you remain in the area in which you grew up in, you can definitely reach different levels. Like, trust me, you can. Like, again, when I was 19 to 20 years old, I got in the paper in my own area before COVID. And I barely knew what Facebook ads was. And I was still just desperate enough to make it happen. So you can do that. But there's too many reminders of old you. I see that spray painted guitar when I was a guitar playing kid when I was 10 years old winning music awards. When I look at my bedroom, right? I see the blanket that I was using when I was 5. I see the pictures of me when I was 10, 11, 12, 15. I see my debutante pictures when I was 16, doing Deb with my Deb partner, who I'm no longer friends with, as an example. And I'm sure she's cool, by the way. She's a cool girl. I'm just giving an example, right? So too many reminders of the past sometimes can harbor creativity. But when you go to a new location, you're getting new stimuli. There's new people around you. There's all these different types of new ideas that can come up. There's a new shower, there's a new bed. It's usually quite empty if it's unfurnished property, right? There's all these things, for me, when I wake up and I get to look out over this view, I get inspired. But is that in and of itself what leads to you outgrowing something? It doesn't. I'm just saying that's part of, I think, a natural evolution of things. And I think that really does help reset the personality. Not reset the personality, but grow. And of course, you got to outgrow friends, man. Come on, man. I'm not even going to give you guys the rant on outgrowing friends. You guys already, a lot of you guys have watched the YouTube content on that. If you think you can have top 1%, 2%, 5%, even 10%, let alone 0.01%. I'm not at the 0.01%, by the way. Yeah, I'm trying to get there by the end of the year. By the end of this year, I want to see if I can knock on the top 0.01% store, right? But I understand that the vibration I'm operating at now would be different to that vibration of the 0.01%. So say I'm in the top 2%, 3%, 1%, that attracts a certain vibration of people. Got it. You have to be willing, as cold as this sounds, it doesn't mean you cut them off. I'm not saying cut them off. I talk to my homies all the time. I'm trying to include them in projects all the time. But what I'm saying is, where you're spending the majority of your time is probably not going to be with people that are operating at a different or lower vibration than you, because you tend to vibrate at the level that you vibrate at, and you're trying to probably attract people that vibrate at that level too, and that's okay. It's okay. We're humans, we're mimetic creatures. So I'm going to leave it at that, because I think you guys already know the vibes on that one. How much is your identity tied to your business? Honestly, I think a lot of my identity is just tied to my personal development. And the business is an exemplar of personal development. Quasar is an exemplar of, Quasar in a sense is not even necessarily a business. That's just an expression of creativity. It loses money, right? I spent over 100K on Quasar. It's made maybe $10,000 or $15,000. But that's an expression of mastery, right? Being able to communicate with men and women in a way that invites them in is an expression of mastery. So I wouldn't say that, if I was to give a percentage, how much of my business is tied to my identity, I would say Dami at this level is his identity. Because I could sell my business, and then what am I? Am I still like not a high level guy because I've sold my business? You get what I'm saying? So I think the real frame is you develop yourself into a person that has optionality in the way they want to navigate the world. Whether they want to be a traveler, whether they want to grow a company to 50 staff like myself, whether they want to be a producer. I could quit my business right now, sell it, say for 1-2M as an example, and go into corporate and become a producer in the States and use all that money invested in the Bitcoin and maybe be worth $10 million by like 30 or 28, 29. I could do that right now, but what I would rather do is achieve mastery in this field that I've decided, achieve mastery in the creative fields when I'm a bit older, achieve mastery, maybe even in music. What a lot of people don't know is I was extremely musical as a kid. I understood that in order for me to achieve mastery in one thing, at one point I had to cut off other things. I was a basketballer, right? But does that now mean I don't have a love for music? No, I love music. Does that mean I don't have a love for fashion? No, I love fashion. But I am okay with how I am perceived by others because I know my identity is insular, it's internal to me. And I know the character traits that I've been able to develop because I have been me my whole life. Instead of the business guy, or the basketball guy, or the fashion guy, or the music guy, I've been Dami, and I've always been in pursuit of excellence and mastery. And mastery intrinsically motivates me. Chimmy, what's going on? Happy New Year. I just saw your post about all the gigs you got lined up. I'm excited for you. How did you learn focus? You got to remove things. So when I was in New Zealand 2 years ago as of next month for Quasar, we were doing a shoot there, like doing New Zealanders think the same, all that stuff. And I talked about how many people particularly like where we grew up, Melbourne, like because Australia has 26, 27 million people, and there's not as many people here as like India or like the US or the UK, whatever. We sometimes sensationalize the person that is like everywhere, but doesn't really have depth. Like, and I was a victim of this. I remember at one point in my early 20s, like 20, 21. Actually, no, I was a teenager at this time. I was 19. I tried doing the modeling thing in Melbourne, creative scene. If you're in the creative scene in Melbourne, you haven't tried to be a model at least once on Instagram, like you haven't been in the creative scene in Melbourne. The modeling thing, I did the fashion thing. I've had events. I still have an event. I tried multiple different nightclubs, got finessed on one. I've had a cleaning business. I've had 3 marketing companies, right? One of my business partners, one of them is no longer with us, right? I trained them on sales. Like, I've had multiple corporate jobs, been fired by multiple jobs. So in Melbourne, a lot of people try to be multidisciplinary. That word is broke. Being multidisciplinary is broke. And I hope that goes viral, and I hope people hate on it because, we're doing a lot of rage-baiting content, but it's true. Focus is the result of focusing on like one thing. And to be clear, I need to get better at this because I don't have one thing, but I have one main thing. Like I prioritize my agency above Quasar. I prioritize my agency above any other business because my agency is my agency. That's my main focus. I get asked all the time, hey, do you want to own part of this? Hey, do you want to own part of that? I'm like, wow, it's tempting, but I'm going to lock into my agency, right? I will take my agency. I already said this, like my agency will be the vehicle that gets me to my freedom number that I've had since I was 21. And I've been very clear about what my freedom number is. And I'm not going to reveal that on camera. Actually, I've already revealed it before, but my agency is the vehicle to do that. So why would I deviate when I have a vehicle? Even if there's other things that interest me, I have enough experience in my business and I guess perhaps in entrepreneurship to understand that if you try to focus on too many things, you don't accomplish anything. But if you focus on one thing for a phase, then you can maybe have a decade for each thing. So maybe I'm 26 right now. Maybe I'm going to make it to 100 because I'm a G. Maybe I've got 8 cool things, like really big cool things in my life that I'll accomplish. But from like 19 to 30, 100% the agency is the priority. 100%. Even if the agency started spitting out 5 million a month in like 2028, doesn't matter. The goal till 2030 is the agency's priority, right? And that will be a very painful business. 5 million a month agency is a very painful business. A lot of humans that you're managing. So yeah, when it comes to focus, you have to, no matter how creative you are, you have to be able to say, all right, this is the phase to master this one thing. I'm willing to give this 10 years. If you can't say you're willing to give something 10 years, that's okay. Entrepreneurship is probably not for you. And that's all good. But it's that willingness to sacrifice other things and to say, look, I love this. I'm going to revisit this in life later. And then people are like, well, life's too short. I'm like, well, you can't have everything, man. You can't have everything. Give this thing 10 years. You're 25, you're 21, you're 31. You're going to be 41 anyway. You're going to be 61 anyway. I'd rather be 61 with like 4 massive accolades, 1 massive accolade each decade, like massive accolade, right? Instead of I was 61, still broke, didn't really do anything. So that's my philosophy for being focused. When you do too many things, at the end of the day, you can just look at your results year on year on year and be like, all right, did I really make a leap or a bound? And it's not that you should measure it by that, but it's like, what patterns did I participate in that led to the lack of progress? 99% of the time, it's lack of focus. If no one ever saw your success, would you still want it? Absolutely! That's the difference. I'm not driven by status like a lot of people. Like, I don't have to live. I might not even be in this apartment by the end of 2026 and I'll be richer, right? Like, I am driven by mastery. I still wear the same green jacket, and those of you that live in Melbourne will know what I'm talking about. The same green jacket I've been wearing since 2022. I still wear it. When I'm out and about, people are like, what do you do? And I don't know them. Oh, I'm in sales, bro. What do you do in sales? Oh, like some marketing company. Yeah, I sell a bit of SEO. Yeah. How about you? I don't, like, a lot of people, I don't even tell them I run a company with 50 people that will probably do a couple million minimum this year. But like, it's because I'm not driven by status like that. Like, status isn't my main driver, but it is for majority of men. So I get that. And again, this is not just my words. You can look this up. Look at Dr. David Buss, evolutionary psychology. There's megalomania. There's all these different, like if you look at Diddy, he's a bit of a megalomaniac. He loves power. There's different levers. For me, I love winning. I love winning, right? Because for me, winning is a result of increase in skills and a level of mastery. So I don't even think I show it off, like except when I do these live streams and I'm doing content. But otherwise, like I come in with messy hair. I could spend a lot more on my hair. I don't have veneers. I've got normal teeth. Clean, unshaven. I stink right now because I'm sweaty because I've been selling all day because it's another deal. Like, I don't care. But that's not a bad thing if you do care. You just got to realize how you're wired, because once you realize how you're wired, you can play to your strengths. Who doubted you the most and didn't matter? Man, I've been doubted by so many people, bro. Like, I've been doubted by parents. I've been doubted by my community at times, the Nigerian community. I've been doubted by girlfriends. I still remember being 18 years old and my first semi-long-term girlfriend, I say semi because it's like a year, which is long when you're like 17, 18. And I still remember I was like, yeah, these are my goals that I wanted to do by 25. I wanted to do this, and this. And she's technically right. My business didn't hit, $1 million run rate until I was just 26. So she was right. I said I wanted to do it by 25. So she beat me there. But there's just so many people that have doubted me. Like you wouldn't like so many people, man. But I love it because by the time I was like mid-teens, I had a deluded sense of self-belief. Like deluded. Like I should probably get tested. Like I still have a deluded sense of belief, but now I've got a lot of evidence that supports it. But trust me, like I used to be one of those guys that in the Facebook shit posting era, I would be that guy that would post like statuses trying to go viral. That was me. I was the annoying guy that would cause trouble in high school because you post a controversial status and everyone would be talking about it. But I just loved it. Like, how 6ix9ine is like a troll? I wasn't his level of troll. But that's the kind of vibe I had. A bit of 6ix9ine vibe. You know what I'm saying? And like between like 15 to like 18. So So yeah, a lot of people have doubted me. There's not a one person that I'd say the most. I've even had basketball coaches be like, straight up, like this basketball coach is super autistic. So he didn't really realize how it came across. Like, you don't have game like this guy, like passing the ball. Like, you're not as good. I've had other coaches be like, you're not as good as you think. And now I'm just saying the light because I'm on camera, but bruh, I got called fat nigga at 12, like so much. Like, but also people don't see that because now I'm perceived to be up. Like, honestly, like people kiss my ass all the time. Like, because, you know, they know I can come with value. But like, I've had people not shake my hand, even though I was friends with their daughter. Like, bro, and then they say happy birthday when they see me in like the paper, like a year later. Like, it's crazy, man. But I love the game, man. I love the game. And I've had so much doubt and I love it. I love it. Like, it's different. But I've also passed it. Like, I reckon what got me to my first 1 to 200K a year was like people doubting me and stuff. But at this point, like, I feel like I operate at a higher level of like Maslow's hierarchy. Like, I feel like I operate in such abundance when people just doubt me or try to send me low vibrations. I just can't relate. Like, I'm like, that's not the state that's not the level I operate at. So I don't understand. Who has helped you the most behind the scenes? A lot of people, man. First of all, again, shout out to Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ has helped me the absolute most. I'm one of God's soldiers, and that's just what it is. It's kept me safe out of very close calls in life. But a lot of people have helped me, man. You know, even my little brother. My little brother, he's killing it in business as well. You know, he's helped me. I had people help me in my early days, make some introductions into people. When my business started taking off again in 2023, you know, one of the people that helped kickstart that was my little brother. He introduced me to someone that he used to work for, and that person ended up signing me up, and that kind of recreated the momentum, right? The momentum that led me to then grow the company in that year to kind of a couple 5 figures a month. And then we're stagnant at a couple 5 figures a month for a little bit, and then, you know, we hit $500,000 a year in revenue, and now 7-figure a year run rate plus. I don't even like saying it's $1 million because I know that we can do way more this year, but yeah, like, so a lot of people, man. God, my brother, a ton of mentors. And like a lot of my mentors have been digital. You know, like I paid $10,000 to do an interview with Ty Lopez for like 30 minutes. But like, I learned a lot. He's the one that said voice message AI dummy, like voice message to AI X amount of times a day. I was already using AI, but I was like, if Ty Lopez who's done 700+ million in a year is telling me to send more voice messages to ChatGPT, I'm going to start doing it. And, you know, lo and behold, you know, end of 2024 was a pretty good year for the company. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people, not one person, has helped me the most. A lot of people help me behind the scenes. At the end of the day, you know, to raise a child, it takes a village, you know. Who's this sexy guy? I mean, OJ, I think that's you, man. I'm just the guy from the West. I think that's you, man. I think you're the sexy guy. I hope you're well, my brother. All right, we'll go on for another 10 minutes. I bet that situation with your GF at 18 boosted your hunger for success even more. Look, I've got a lot of experiences, man. But yes, it did. It did mainly for basketball. Actually, she didn't even doubt the basketball one. But again, she didn't say that begrudgingly. Like, she was 18 as well. Like, she just was saying what she thought. You know, she was a bit like me, probably a touch on the spectrum. So she was kind of a straight shooter. But yeah, man, like, it's okay. I'm very grateful for that. And yes, it would have boosted my hunger for success. But I also have no hatred to her. There's people that have said way worse things to me. Way worse things to me. Again, I've been in, you know, very close calls in my life. But I'm very grateful, man. I'm very grateful. There's a lot of people that, you know, once doubted on me to a very extreme level. And they see what I'm doing, and it's love and respect. You know, like people that have doubted me, they've come to my events in the past, I give them a drink. You know what I'm saying? Client that hasn't paid me, they come to my event, they don't even know I'm running the event. I've had basketball trainers. Oh, there's so many stories of people doubting me, man. Come to my crib, drink on my crib. Doubt me, man. Like, he's just distracted, man. He doesn't know what he's doing, man. He's like, he's immature. He's a kid, man. I don't want anything. I had a guy, a basketball trainer. This is a good story. Oh, this is such a good story. I was going to say this for a YouTube video, but I'll say it now. This is such a good story of being doubted. There was a basketball trainer, and he knows who he is. He might watch this in like a year because he knows me. But he doesn't follow me because he's clouded in his brain. Anyway, this guy, he didn't want to train me anymore, which is fine. Don't have to train me because he likes to train with people that he thinks he can get to the NBA. He no longer thought I had a chance of not only the NBA, but even getting to a certain level of basketball because of the age. I was like 22, 23 at the time. No issue. But I convinced this guy to train my brother. And I was like, because my brother is my brother. I will die for my brother. That's my little brother. He gets training this guy, and this guy's like, look, I'll be honest. I'm only training you because Dami kept hounding me, man. This guy's got an American accent, right? He's tiny guy. Anyway, so me being me, like just absolute like never give up Naruto kind of vibe. Like I start watching him train. I rock up to the facility, watch him train. I'm just copying their drills. I'm copying the drills that he's doing to teach my brother and other people. Just copying it. Because I'm like, that's as close as I'll get. Because he's not going to let me train with him. Anyway, I keep doing that. I keep doing that nearly every day, or like a couple times a week. One time we get in the gym. And I was listening to music. And maybe I was being a bit too like, you know, in my own world. I'm listening to music, just vibing in the gym. And he's like, hey man, come here, man. And I sit down next to, because like he's still like my ex-trainer, so I have respect for him. I sit down with him. And he's like, hey man, you gotta stop doing this shit, man. Like, you know, you're annoying me. And I was like, I respect you. And I wasn't even trying to be a smartass, maybe a little bit of a smartass, but I wasn't trying to be that much of a smartass. He talks, I'm like, no worries, I respect you. And I put my hand out to do a handshake. He's like, what are you doing, man? I was like, okay, no worries, sir. And I said something like, no worries, sir. Like, I respect it. Or I either did that or I put my hand to shake again, like the other hand. I did something a bit smart, like I took the smartass to a level. And this guy, this coach, this trainer, in front of the whole gym, like this, man, fuck you doing, man? What the fuck you doing, man? I don't want anything to do with you. And I just smile, because at this point, I'm already a soldier. I've already been through like way worse. He says in front of the whole gym, I don't want anything to do with you. and my brother saw me smiling, because he's like, oh, like, out of all, like, he just knew that, because my brother's my brother. He knows that my brother knows I can piss him off as well. So he yells the whole gym, and he's like angry. And then his other trainees were like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, man, I'm okay. Like, even though you just had like an emotional outburst. Now, nearly 1 year later, I have other events in Melbourne and stuff like that. And I had an event at a venue that's now shut down. It was like a very, like if you had money or if you had status in Melbourne, you're going to this club. Like NBL guys, AFL guys, they go to this club with like their hot girlfriends, whatever, spend money on bottles, whatever. I end up creating a partnership with a certain business guy in Melbourne. We collab and we host an event at this venue. I rock up to the venue and I'm like, no way. That's not who I think it is. And the eyes look back at me. It was my ex-trainer. My ex-trainer was with one of his trainees that was about to play in the NBL. And he's like, and he sees me around like these important people. And he's like, what are you doing here, man? And I was like, this is my event. I'm like 23, 24. And he's like, oh, okay, man. Yeah, we got to catch up. And I was like, of course we're going to catch up. And obviously the rest of the night, like, you know, to be clear, I was freshly single at this point. So like, you know, I made sure that he could see me with his type of women, because I knew his type of women. You get close to someone when they train you on and off for 2 to 3 years, right? And that's the dark side of me that I got to work on, you know? But I'll put it this way. In the last 2 to 3 years, you know, he hasn't said, at least because he likes to gossip, I haven't heard much more negative things he said about me compared to what he'd say before. But again, like I've had so many people doubt me, so many people. So whether it was a girlfriend or an ex-trainer that said they wanted nothing to do with me, then they end up at your club buying drinks from your own event, trying to act like they know you. You know, like life is long and it's short, man. Like at the end of the day, like I said, become a master at something. Become a master at something. You have no idea what it could end up being. And it doesn't have to be in vengeance. It can be in pursuit of self-mastery. All right, what do you become in the moments nobody is watching? That's a lot of philosophical questions today. What do you become? I would say I become quite insular. Like a lot of people tend to think I am extroverted or ambiverted or whatever. I definitely, in my most intimate of moments, sway introverted significantly because I like to spend a lot of time in my brain. I haven't spent as much time alone recently, but I do like spending time alone because I like to think that when Dami has the space to, you know, dissect this cognitive process and then tweak it and kind of make the wheel spin a bit better, I can put out like brilliance into the world, and that's a very addictive feeling. So in the moments nobody's watching, that's very much me, an architect of thought and of ideas. I think that some of the best entrepreneurs of our time, like if you look at Elon Musk, or even to a lesser extent, but even from a service perspective, even if you look like an Alex Hormozy or whatever, like a lot of these guys, they're essentially psychologists. Like the best business guys really are psychologists that have a product or service to sell, to solve a problem. So I do think that in a way, perhaps I am also an architect of thought, trying to understand and model human behavior to engineer it to be able to, solve problems. And that is something that I like to ponder on in my own mind, because I do feel like, there's kind of the artist side of myself that I've only really been able to show once my company grew, because there's such a limited pool of testing when, you're just trying to get the thing off the ground, and that's when you have to really be a robot and kind of just copy, people first. Who helped you see opportunities you were missing? Again, glory to God, man. Like, you guys probably think I'm being a bit esoteric, or it's like we're getting a bit religious, but I'm really telling you, when you can submit to something that you don't understand, it makes you feel like you can learn forever, instead of feeling like you have all the answers, right? Anyway, that's my first answer. But other things that are opportunities that I saw or missing from people. Again, sometimes it's just being an observer of content, going to places like Reddit, going to places like YouTube, consuming things from both sides creates synthesis. That's what I would say is really important. When I was in my mid to late teens, I was very, I'd lean to one way politically, and then in my early teens, I swung massively to the other side, and now I'd like to think I'm kind of middle to one side, right? But the reason why I mention that is because the more you can synthesize contradictions, I feel the more unique your output is. So when it comes to, things like seeing opportunities, I try to think of, what would one do if they did not want the result? And then I try to do the inverse of that, and that's called the inverse effect. But I also try to look at, okay, someone's having success in one thing, like, okay, if Kanye West is so successful musically, what part of his brain makes him so illustrative, clothing-wise and fashion-wise? Okay, and then you look at people like A$AP Rocky, like they're joining two worlds together and colliding them. If you look at Tyler, the Creator, they're joining two worlds together and colliding them. I think a lot of the most brilliant minds on earth join worlds together and collide them. Even if you look at Patrick Bet-David, he had his insurance company, but he does podcasting. He combines his salesmanship, art of communication into podcasting. Now he's got, a top 20 podcast on earth. If you look at Joe Rogan, he's a UFC guy that loves UFC fighting and commentating, but he's got the biggest podcast on earth. So the Diary of the CEO guy, he had a marketing agency just like me. He sold it at 27, interesting pattern. And now he's doing a huge podcast, the second biggest podcast in the world. So there are patterns in human nature. And I think those that collide patterns together really create something special. And if God wills it, hopefully I'm able to do something special as well. Wow, you should have slapped that coach. Look, what's crazy? Again, because you've got to figure out what vibrational level you're operating on. I have love for that coach, because he also took me on when I was 19, 20 from my other coach that was training me at the time, because I was asking my coach for opportunities. That insatiable desire to achieve mastery led me to him. And look, he taught me a lot of things. There's a lot of analogies that I even take from that specific coach, because he is one of the few coaches, to be honest, that has gotten people to the NBA from Australia, right? But, there's a lot more that I could say about him as an individual, but it's all love. And I like that he said that he wanted nothing to do with me. I love that, because when I have bigger events, he's invited. And I know he'll attend. And I know he won't be able to look me in the eye. And that's okay. It's not about the vengeance, because you have to also figure out what you are driven by. I know that it's, at least in terms of hierarchy, I'm not primarily driven by status. I'm not primarily driven by sex. I'm not primarily driven by the number actually digitally going up, but the numbers are even fake anyway. Money is printable. But I am, and it's okay if you are driven by those things, but I understand that I am driven by being the guy in a hoodie that is so freaking good at like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that when it goes out into the world, it's like beautiful. right? And I think that's the play that I'm going to keep running as I age, and that's just because of all the learning that I've done about myself. Sometimes we're attracted to things that drive others. A lot of people are like, by 30 or by 40 or by 21, I want a Ferrari. Again, technically, if I sold my agency, I could probably afford 2 or 3 Ferraris. But like, that wouldn't make me feel, that's not how I'm driven. That wouldn't make me feel accomplished, because it's like, I've bought into, like, I want a Bugatti, but like, that didn't make me feel, like, that doesn't make me feel like I'm going after excellence. That's maybe a token of excellence, a demonstration externally, but I don't feel like internally I reached another level of skill where I can compete at a higher level of the game. That's what drives me. And I look at my patterns in my life. When I was 10 years old, I was winning music awards. I was a triple threat as an artist. I would sing, I would play guitar, and I'd play piano. Smoke motherfuckers. By high school, basketball, 2 weeks before the year 12 exams, basketball interests and offers from college. That was close, by the way. I was so stressed because like all this 7 years of work, basketball-wise, it might not eventuate 2 weeks beforehand, and eventuates. I'm like, thank you God, right? And now this is the vehicle business, but it's not the vehicle. It was how the person is driven. So the real game really from today, guys, is I hope you understand, you can find out who you really are, not by who you say you are or by the things you say you want, but by the things that made you curious, patterns-wise, over your 25, 30, 35, 18 years of life. That's the biggest hack. And I had to learn that, through pain, cognitive behavioral coaches through pain, people like Ty Lopez. But once I noticed that, I was like, I don't care. Because I understand how I'm driven and what will give me the most satisfaction. How do you keep vision clear when things get messy? Well, the first thing is your vision should be so clear that you anticipate messiness. Again, the biggest issue with Gen Z is they think it's just like, oh, you do this thing and then you do this, and then like you make 10K a month, or you do this, and then like you get this job and you get the promotion. Like, no, like stop being so fucking soft. Like, it's not how it works. I anticipate, like what you should do, and I learned this from Patrick McDavid, it's like how to plan your year. You need to plan in different things. You need to plan for the financial, the health, the spiritual, the actual goal. And then you need to plan for all of the outliers. What things could disrupt? Could it be a death? Could it be lack of food? Could it be lack of money? You need to be able to quantify the things that can mess up your reality and have that as part of your plan. So if it doesn't happen, well, great. But if it does happen, you anticipate, right? That's the hack as well. Like, don't anticipate it to be easy. I don't even want to say this. If my senior leadership team all of a sudden dipped one day, internally, I've already planned for that. Internally. I'm not even talking about it's written. Just psychologically, I'm like, it's going to be all right. You know, like you got to have that like psychopathic calmness, like to really compete. So like, yeah, like there's no anticipating that things aren't. Like you got to be clear regardless. That's just the game. You've already done so much special and big things. Thank you, Cynthia. There's always levels, and I'm grateful for what I've done so far. But it's God's choice to write the rest, and I'm excited to find out the rest. But I do appreciate that compliment. All right, 2 more things. It's crazy to think I've also failed in Albin. I've also failed in football, and that changed my path to doing what I do. There you go, man. But was it even failure? Was it failure? You get what I'm saying? Because, again, maybe this is the narcissist in me, but I truly believe if I didn't, and I dropped all my business stuff, I truly believe I would have ended up playing NBL or NBA. Straight. Well, NBL actually is quite cheap. NBA, which is crazy because only like less than 50, I think, Aussies make it to the NBA from like all time or whatever, I think. But I generally think I'm crazy enough that I would have just figured it out. But I realized that my main driver is mastery, right? And freedom. Freedom is my second. But anyway, that's a different conversation. We talked enough about drivers. But Albert, man, like maybe do some inner work. Was it actually a failure? Did you give up? Why did you give up? Did you doubt yourself? Is that a pattern? I'm not saying you have, because I know how skilled you are at what you do. Or are you more curious and interested about what you're currently doing? Is there a level of mastery that influences you to stay longer in that thing? These are things to explore. All right, last question. When did intuition beat data in a big decision? I just watched a video about this morning from Jeremy Haynes. Shout out to Jeremy Haynes. He talked about people making decisions with their wallet and then people making decisions with their mind. right? And I love that frame because that's some NLP. For those that know NLP, you know what I'm talking about. Data is thinking, I've got 100 grand in my pocket. If I spend 100 grand, will I make 150, 200, 500? But that's thinking within the limitations and the confines of your wallet, not your mind. Your mind might have been able to get you from zero to walking, to feeding yourself, to walking to school, to being able to answer A, B, C, D. So your mind is constantly learning, it's constantly expansive. When you tap into that frequency of expansion, your ability to think beyond the confines of money itself is when you can actually reach new levels. One of the biggest things that I've done that's grown our company every single month since March last year, again, touch wood, right? Since March last year, like 10 months in a row, which my company has never done before, ever in 7 years of business, is I am thinking, for the most part, and our business owners have to be careful with this, I'm thinking beyond what is the amount of money I have. And that level of thinking allows me to play such a psychologically aggressive level of offense beyond the amount of calls I even make. It's not even just about the calls. It's the energy I emit to the team, the energy my head of sales emits to the team, the energy that my team emits to each other, that allows everyone to be brought into something that is beyond numbers, a vision. Without vision, people perish. So when it comes to intuition, I would reframe that as, how can I leverage thinking beyond numbers, beyond data, to make those occasional big swings? I'm not saying you should always do that because I'm extremely data driven, trust me. But you know, there are going to be moments where you have to take big swings, and it's really a test of, you know, how much guts you have. You know, that's really what it is. Okay, I feel friendly. I feel chatty tonight. One more question, and then next week we're back to sales and marketing webinar. All right. We'll wrap it up. You don't have anything else to say? All right. I hope you guys got value out of that. As always, think mega, one love, take over 2026. Let's get it. Let's go.